this one out. Just in time for the holidays, DMR has released a brand new mod for NASCAR Racing 2003. And this is one I did not expect to see. I doubt very many would. This is what they're calling the VTS 65 mod, or what I'm assuming is Vintage Truck Series 1965. Look at these models. It's so detailed. This is coming not too long after DMR released their updated Wheel and Modified Tour mod. Well, I guess just about a year ago now. But it's nice to see them still on the scene with something else new, and with something as maybe seemingly random but awesome as this is. Now, I think most of those watching would know that NASCAR did launch a truck series. Back in 1995 was its first season. They did some test races and things in 1994, but the idea of racing trucks, especially with NASCAR, was a thing that went back quite a number of years. And actually, Buck Baker, Buddy Baker's father, did put together some sort of a truck series in the 80s. Limited information out there about what it was, but very much NASCAR-style trucks. Awesome to see on those square bodies from the time. I'm not really sure if they ever held anything outside of a few exhibition races, but the idea of racing trucks was something that was floating around. And so it's not impossible to imagine, going back into the 1960s, that some folks would have wanted to race trucks and that NASCAR could have had a truck series. And I think these trucks look absolutely awesome dressed up as race cars. The mod itself features 4 distinct models. Although they might look relatively similar at first glance to the untrained eye, each is incredibly detailed as the truck that they're representing. They're all the 1965 models. You have the Chevrolet, I think this would be a first generation C-series, as well as the similar 65 GMC. You also have, of course, the Dodge D100, which can also be reskinned as a Fargo truck, which isn't something I had heard of, but apparently a Canadian offshoot or sub-brand of Chrysler, and probably used very similar bodies to the Dodges in America, but then slightly different styling for that brand. And then somewhat similar is the 1965 Ford. All 4 of these models, and I guess 6 of the different trucks that fit them, really do look incredible. NASCAR 2003, I've said this before in other mods that I've reviewed for this sim, it's not something you can just throw a high polygon model into. It takes a lot of creativity and understanding to make something that looks as good as these do, and they really do look the part. Now, this mod was primarily put together by Dennis over at DMR with help from Billy Anderson, especially with the painting and the car set creation for this. The mod itself comes with some 90 different paint schemes, half of which are somewhat of a street truck type series that you can run that have somewhat smaller numbers and look a little bit more like show models. And the other half are full race cars that have somewhat of a mix of vintage and kind of modern paint schemes. A lot of modern sponsors that have been dated back, or other paint schemes from Winston Cup and things over the years, adapted to fit this kind of vintage truck aesthetic. And there's not a lot of information on DMR's website about what this was inspired by. But based on some of the equipment that the driver model has in it and some of the logos and things, it almost looks as though it's a modern series that's taking vintage trucks and racing them. And so these would be right at home on any vintage track or even any modern track if you want to have this idea of a vintage series. It's just fantastic and a surprise, and something that I've been enjoying for the past couple of nights. And so I brought a field of these vintage trucks to the wonderful North Wilkesboro Speedway, a 1970 version that I believe Dennis had also made back quite a ways when the 1970 mod was first released for NASCAR 2003. Probably over 10 years ago now. But this track represents North Wilkesboro as it was around the year 1970, and has since been updated by the folks over at Delta Sim Racing to make it appear even a bit more retro, as well as make some adjustments to the AI and to the handling on the track to make it feel like you're driving a little bit more a vintage car. So we'll set off for a quick 40-lap sprint to bump some fenders the old school way and enjoy this awesome creation. All right, so we'll roll away out of the pits for our 40-lap race at North Wilkesboro Speedway in classic trucks. This is very cool. I've been having so much fun with this. And it's such a fresh kind of idea, but right up my alley. Something vintage, very plausibly realistic, even if it didn't occur in real life. The trucks just look the part, and I think are quite nice to race against. we'll set ourselves up 40 laps, hopefully avoid any chaos off the start here, and work my way towards the front. I'm in, I think, 30th place to start. So wait for the green, no spotter or anything to tell us when to go. Just to watch for the flag man, probably won't even get around the fourth corner. Green lights on. So funnel down into the first corner. North Wilkesboro Speedway is notorious or famous for having the two sets of corners at different heights. The backstretch here goes uphill into turn 3, whereas the front stretch goes downhill down to turn 1, and we're firmly in the pack, just against the wall, kind of. As we'll slide the truck a little bit on the way out. But this is a fantastic rendition of this course that I think, like I said, Dennis built back when the 1970 mod for NASCAR 2003 came out, and this one's since been updated, as these three in front are going to try to go 3 wide. See if I can get to the high line there around the 23 here. This track's updated by the Delta Sim Racing group, who does a lot of vintage racing leagues for NASCAR 2003, and they've made a race a lot more vintage feeling. You know, the limited things that you can do with the track files to try to make them feel more like vintage cars. They really somehow pulled it off. It's these three stacking up here. We'll see if we can just get the edge on the truck off the inside. So we're side by side. 23 is going to slide down, give me the space up high. The high line is absolutely king on this version of the course. Down, especially the lowest lane, there's no grip down there, so you can't really ride the bottom white line. It's really the top 2 lanes is where it's at. 96 is going to slide way high. We'll try to take it 3 wide through the middle, pinch the truck on the low side. Whoa! All right, making that work out. Truck on the low side backs out. We'll slide up. I think Bill Anderson has done a wonderful job painting trucks for this. There's some like the Bobby Isaac, and I guess we got Richard Petty up there. The 71 here. There's some that are really based on cup cars from the time or the era, but then there's lots that are simply maybe a modern sponsor that looks a little more retro, or even entirely unique creations. I'm not sure what the inspiration was for half of them, but they really do look nice. And something that could have been somewhat of a boring set of just copy trucks from NASCAR paint schemes. It's done so a lot of unique ones that just look really cool. Very colorful, and so many paint schemes as well. A lot of times these mods will get released and only have maybe 20 cars in them or something, but you've got basically 2 full car sets, and I've already seen some folks starting to upload new paint schemes for it. So try to slide under, understeer a little bit there. I found somehow this is the default physics with NASCAR 2003, but somehow on this track I can actually slide the truck and not spin it out, which is incredible. Not a feeling that you get often in NASCAR 2003, but it will wear the tires out, so we won't want to do that. As I see a few trucks up front ahead of me, making a little bit of contact there. These two, so they're side by side. We can try the low line, but like I said, there's not a lot of grip down here, so it's just tough to actually get any purchase on the tires to accelerate. Yeah, it just pushes when you get down there. That didn't work out, and the Isaac truck's going to come back up the outside. A couple trucks right against the fence. It is so cool to see DMR making mods. When they released the Wheel and Modified update mod, it really is about a year ago, but back in, I think I looked at it in January or so, it was such a surprise to see a new mod from them because it had been a while. So it's neat to see something in under a year again, and I think I had seen a few renders from some of these models back years and years ago, probably when they were first starting to create them, and it's neat to see something like that get finished after so many years. And gives me hope that maybe one day we'll see the vintage modified mod from them that there were all also some renders floating around for years and years ago. It's got a spot here on the high side. We'll go around the Richard Petty truck. So 25 blocks. See if we can hang it on the high side. There's a lot more grip up here. It's almost like a Darlington type sensation right around the fence. But if you go watch videos of North Wilkesboro back in the 60s, they did race pretty high on this track, probably in the middle lane if you didn't have other cars or trucks around you. So it's a faithful recreation to that time period. And there are so many vintage tracks for NASCAR 2003, especially for the 70s. Early 70s, late 60s and things. Delta Sim Racing has a great list of them, but then there's plenty of others as well. So you can do yourself a full vintage championship with these things. The truck up front slams into the wall a little bit there. Got him 3 wide in front, trying to pinch down the Petty truck. Oh, I'm going to get pinched in the middle if I'm not careful. The outside of the 30. Pepsi Cola trucks, he's going to be right up against me in the wall. With this mod as well comes an updated pit crew, little pit crew model, as well as a pace truck, which I think is some sort of van version of one of the trucks, which helps really complete the whole thing. Alright, starting to string out single file. And if I can get around the high side of the Petty truck, maybe we can make this work. So he leaves the top lane open as well as the 30. There we go. Finally got a good run through there, and so much grip up top, able to rock around the high side. Up to just 25th, so I've only passed 5 trucks in total from my starting spot. But I think we'll start to be able to make a little bit of progress now. About halfway through the race, just about. No yellow flags yet, but we'll see. Switch to the low side on the 25 here. See if we can wrap the low end. I'm just going to slide a bit. Yeah, there's just no grip down there. It's a very cool sensation. It's really remarkable how different you can make tracks feel to make it feel like you're racing an older car, because the underlying physics engine of NASCAR 2003 is still the same physics. So as the game is concerned, we were driving a 2003 truck. But with the tweaks that they're able to make to the track and how the grip varies on it, it does really feel like something quite different. I don't know if anybody knows what a race truck from the 60s would feel like, but I'm fairly convinced right now that this is what I'm doing. Visually, it looks so good. Try to take these guys on the low side, dipping down as the track will rise here up the backstretch, right on the tailgate, the 27. Give them just a little bit of a nudge. You got to be careful. One of the things you can do in this mod is break your windshield to get in a fender bender or something. I guess thinking that it maybe is glass in there. It's quite easy to smash, as I think the one truck in front of me here actually has a smashed rear windscreen. Try to keep it just one lane up. So 14 truck runs a little bit high, scoop down low on the 1. There we go. I was just slide into turn 1 there, just caught it. All right, a little bit of clean track now up to 21st. So the group in front slowing each other up a bit, able to catch up to them right away as the 6 jumps out wide. We'll get low side. Oh, the truck actually looks like it might have broken down back there. Could potentially be a yellow flag, we'll see. He jumped out of the way. It's a Cotton Owens looking truck. There's a yellow flag out. All right, we'll come around and get that yellow flag this time. But something happening with the Owens truck. Hopefully not here, still sitting on the front stretch. Maybe able to work it out of the way, so get the yellow flag. All right, only 15 laps to go. So there'll be a restart with not too many laps to go. And maybe be able to jump a couple of these guys. But I'll get everything sorted out here and come back when we take the green flag. All right, I think the light's just gone out, so we got 1 lap to go. There's no other way to know. The flagman unfortunately doesn't clutch the flag. But the lights went out, so we got a green next lap. We should have about 10 laps to go. 10 laps sprint at the end. I'm in 19th right now. And we'll see if we can make up a few more, maybe get up in that top 15 or something. I was under caution just watching the trucks in front. And I appreciate how they all look like they're sitting correct on the suspension and things. It's one of the things that seems to be so hard to get with NASCAR 2003 mods. It's just making the cars or trucks look like they're driving correctly, which they really do in this. It's very, very, very well done. As the green comes out, as everybody jumps to the high line, see if we can accelerate smoothly. I'm gonna have cold tires here, so understeer just a little bit. Coming onto the front stretch, get up to 4th gear. Really blow past the red line on the tack. I have to think that's what the normal engine would be. We've got something a little special in here. Nobody pit under yellow, so it's all just a 10-lap dash based on those 30-lap tires that we all had. So we'll come around the high side. I got a normal tire and fuel burn. Just a straight-up 40-lap race, nothing fancy. But I think short tracks are where the trucks always fit the most in my mind, and so doing some vintage trucks at a short track seems like a natural fit. So we'll jump past one of the trucks there, jump to the low line on this very Tim Hortons Chevrolet. Maybe that one should have been the Fargo. There's a Tim Hortons Fargo up there, so not so bad. Got a big stack up here. There's just nowhere to go. You really can only stay in those top 2 lanes and make any kind of effective move. So we'll ride the tailgate. All right, come to the line. Just 7 laps to go. Slide it a little bit. A little love tap. All right, I need to figure out a way. I'm gonna get stalled up behind these guys, jump on the low side, 3 wide, get them on the exit of the corner. It's the mid corner that's gonna hurt me down here, but they are going quite slow, so maybe I can keep pace. Oh, there's just no grip. To send it in and get the spot. All right, turns 3 and 4, it seems like I can actually keep it on the low side. It's just up here in 1 and 2 that it's really ineffective, but I think I worked them single file now. Up to 15th. Maybe a top 10 can happen here if I can just put a few laps together. You can see the truck in front's got quite a bit of fender damage in the rear. The damage models for these are very good. You can actually see the smashed glass there on that truck in front, which is very easy to do, and there's some files you can put in the mod to customize it to remove that if you really don't like it, but it has a vibe to it that I quite like. All right, come around the low side here, just feathering the throttle, waiting for the grip to come in. So get up behind. I quite like this Tim Hortons Fargo in front. The number 40 there. It looks like a petty truck. See, it runs into the wall in front, so that'll be another freebie for me. So now we got access to the high line. Let's see if we can put it to work here. Just 3 laps to go. A lot of the paint schemes in this are different beer companies and things. I think did a great job at choosing some of the sponsors. And certainly would be something for everybody. So come to the line, just a couple more laps, up into 11th now, just need one more spot. So dive down low coming out of turn 2, gonna have a great run of these guys. Take the low line, a little late on the brakes, and just slide up in front. Gonna slide the rear end, my God, barely caught that. Made it work though. White flag is out, one more lap to go. Big move for the top 10. Up into 9th though. We'll try to chase down this 21 on the final lap. Really lovely track this. Has a lot of character to it with the added different grip levels and things. That makes it pretty exciting as we'll get on the high side of the 21 through turns 3 and 4. I think I preserved my tires maybe a bit better than these guys. But come grab 8th for the line and finish our little 40-lap race. It's a cool mod. It's neat to see new stuff come out for NASCAR 2003. That isn't only the modern NASCAR stuff, although I think that's great as well. But to get some really new and different mods coming out and giving us something fun to race, and I still think the offline AI racing in NASCAR 2003 is probably the best oval racing that there is for offline stuff. And so having some older trucks to race wasn't something I would have ever thought of, but it's definitely something that I'm happy doing. And like I said, I hope maybe someday they'll get around to that vintage NASCAR modified mod, and we could have some fun with that. But this one's great. Definitely go check it out if you have NASCAR 2003 set up, and let DMR know how much you enjoy it, and maybe they'll make more in the future. But that's it for this. This is GP Laps, and I'll see you all again next time.